Therefore, it's very, very important to become aware of what you're feeling, because what you're feeling is telling you what you're thinking, which is really telling you what you believe. What you think about affects how you feel, which affects your behavior, right? That's like a very, very simple breakdown of basically all of human life and all of interaction. If you go even deeper, what you believe affects what you think, affects how you feel, affects how you behave, right? So in Torah, each element of the human body, right, is broken down by a different level of consciousness, what we would call different layers of the soul, right? I don't know if this is a new concept or an old concept for people here, but I'll present it as if it's the first time you're hearing it. Generally speaking, when we talk about the soul, right? We have a soul. Malka, you have a soul, I'm sure. Everyone in this room has a soul. So we talk about the soul in layers, right? And different dimensions of our own consciousness, and that there's a layer in the body itself, there's a layer in our actions, and there's a layer in our emotional sphere, there's a layer in the way that we think, and then it goes deeper to what we would call our subconscious or our higher consciousness, and then even deeper and deeper beyond that, right? Layers to who we are. The reason why I feel it's important to start with that introduction is nothing can be left out. This is the whole picture, is that if you ignore any part of your system, right? If you're completely involved in your emotions, but you don't care about your body, so you become physically unhealthy. If you're always taking care of your body, but you're not going to tend to your emotions, right? So you're going to start falling apart and have, an emotional breakdown. If you're trying to be a healthy person physically, and you're taking care of your emotions, and you're pretty healthy, and you feel you have good relationships, but you're not developing your mind, right? So it's anything in the way that the world is created, that if you have a muscle, right, you don't work it, you don't use it, it atrophies, right? It falls away, and we don't have access to what it's there for. The instrument is a complete instrument, and therefore, when one is out of alignment with the other, right? So we lose this flow. So having the physical, the emotional, and the intellectual in that alignment actually allows for us to do everything that we're trying to do. What is that all about? Okay? So emotions are really a reflection, right? It's a reflection of what's really true for you, what you're feeling is true. This whole idea that we're living in a co-creative process is that we're not alone, right? We're doing this first and foremost between us and a higher power, but we're really doing this as a collective, right? Us and all other Jews, us and all other people, us and all other beings in this world. There's a collective that we're working with. And we've been given a tool, something that with which we can measure what is going on for us. Where is our state of consciousness? Because the idea that you can think a certain way is very nice, but the way that Kabbalah says it, the way it says it in the Zohar, is that the sin of Adam and Eve, right, the sin of eating from the tree, right, if you're familiar with the story, it's a story we're all familiar with. What that means metaphorically, when you remove the fruit from the tree, right, so the Zohar says the heart was removed from the mind. There was a point where we have this disconnect, and now the mind can think in a place where the heart's not at. The heart always tells you where you're at in real time. So there's an advantage and a disadvantage in that reality. The advantage is you can always try to think to get to a better place, which is the beauty of the mind, that we can grow. We can use the mind to see where we want to be. We can dream and go further. We can try to get to a place we want to get to. But the heart and the emotions actually tells you where you're at now. That's extremely important. And this process of that we're connecting to something bigger and we're bringing something into this world. We work more like a magnet, right? Like I gave this metaphor of the law of resonance with music, right? That if you were to play a certain note on one instrument, it'll vibrate and resonate in another instrument, because that's what's happening now. That's the message that's being sent out. So when we say, well, I'm really logical and everything's working fine up here, but for some reason I find myself constantly frustrated, irritated, sad, bored, whatever, apathetic to life, you fill in the blank with your negative emotion. So then you're thinking, hey, things should be going good, things should be going well, I believe that things are going well, but you don't actually believe it. If you believed it, you'd actually be feeling it. Now, one can argue, I'm going to jump in and answer a bunch of questions that will probably jump over there and say, but I do believe it. I really do believe things are for the good. I really do want things to be for the good. Just, it's hard for me to accept that in the moment. That's fair. But I would then shift the way that we think about things are for the good. And if I understood you correctly, Malka, this really ties into kind of like the foundation. This is a foundational premise to what Judaism's about, to what Torah's about. And if you look, this is really across the board. Talmud, Kabbalah, Halacha, everywhere you look, the idea that there is a divine purpose, that there's a guidance, that we're moving in the right direction, that is a premise. That's not a question through the lens of the Torah. We can have the debate if whether or not we can have the, well, why do bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people conversation. That's a separate conversation. But the assumption, the premise, the axiom that we are living with is things are working out. But the fact that that's the premise doesn't mean you feel it now. Doesn't mean that you feel that now. And therefore, it's very, very important to become aware of what you're feeling, because what you're feeling is telling you what you're thinking, which is really telling you what you believe. And it all comes back down to this level of what am I believing in this moment? Because that which I believe is the most powerful thing you have.